Hi, guys. So, welcome to Chapter 7 Vocab. This time around, just so that you know, I'm going to pause in between slides this time, just to give you a chance to pause the video and set yourself up for the next word. Okay, here we go. So, the first word is abrasive. It is Abrasive. Again, it's Rasive. It is an adjective and a noun, so two parts of speech on this one. In the noun sense, it's a substance used for grinding, polishing, or cleaning a hard surface. So, for example, you would use the abrasive to shine up your car if it got very rusty. In the adjective sense, it means something that is capable of polishing a hard surface. Or if you're talking about a person, somebody who shows little concern for the feelings of others. Good synonym might be harsh or arrogant. And if you remember this episode of SpongeBob, this is where he had like his soft SpongeBobby side, and then this was his abrasive side. Like the sponge has like that abrasive side that you would scrub dirty pots and stuff with. And when he had his abrasive side, he was mean and nasty to everybody. So an abrasive is either like an actual thing that you use like polish to polish up a car, or it's when a person, you would describe the person, that's in its adjective sense, as abrasive. So a good sentence for that might be something like her abrasive and arrogant personal style won her few friends, because usually people do not like when someone is abrasive. The next word is acrimonious. Acrimonious, and it is an adjective, which means it describes. It means typically in speech or debate. That's why you can see I've picked this picture here. It means angry and bitter. So you would have, in this sense, like two politicians having an acrimonious debate because they're angry and bitter and nasty. So, a good sentence might be an acrimonious dispute about wages went on for hours. So, acrimonious is the adjective describing the dispute, which is the noun. The next word, blazon. Blazon is again another word that is two parts of speech. It is a verb and a noun, and it means to display prominently or visibly, right? So a good synonym might be to display or exhibit, present, or to spread. So in this picture, I picked like street artists often blazon their art on the side of buildings, right? So they display it prominently. In its noun sense, it would be the blazons were all over the cafeteria during Spirit Week. So in that sense, blazons are used as like things that have been drawn all over the place, like usually on posters. It's a neutrally toned word. The next word is affable. Affable. And it's an adjective, and it means friendly, good natured, or easy to talk to. In this sentence, he would have us believe that his sexual advances were merely the charming excesses of an affable man. In this sentence, affable is the adjective, and it's describing the noun, which is the man. So here again, in this sentence, he's trying to say that he would want people to believe that his like hitting on somebody was just him trying to be friendly, but it really wasn't. It's normally a positively toned word. Again, it just means friendly, good natured. If you were I don't know, a receptionist, they would probably want you to be affable. Good synonyms for that might be friendly, amiable, genial. Our next word, consternation. Consternation is a noun, and it means feelings of anxiety or dismay, typically at something unexpected. So in this sentence, you see it says, I always welcome clover. Clover is this like, if you've never seen it before, it's a spreading weed kind of thing. It spreads very quickly. It can mess up people's lawns. I always welcome clover, much to the consternation of the neighbors. So here, consternation is the noun, much to the anxiety or dismay because they didn't expect all of this clover all over their front lawn. And now suddenly there it is. So that's why the neighbors feel consternation. It's something that you feel, right? Like anger or sadness. Okay. It's consternation. So some synonyms might be display, distress, disquiet, discomposure. This is from all these dis words, you can tell it's a negatively toned word. The next word is a noun, and this is a really tough word. It's attrition. 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 And attrition means the action or process of gradually reducing the strength or effectiveness of someone or something through sustained attack or pressure. So it's like, during the Civil War, that's why I went with this picture. During the Civil War, both sides had an equal amount of men and land and resources, and they just basically, it was a war of attrition. It was both sides just trying to wear each other down. In World War One, that was considered a war of attrition. You are trying to wear down the other side because both of you are equally matched. So some synonyms might be wearing down, wearing away, weakening. A good sentence for that would be the council is trying to wear down the opposition by attrition. Okay. Or the battle would result in further attrition of their already lame naval force. Don't try to use this like wear down, like wearing down like the material of something. Like you wouldn't say your tires were dealing with a lot of attrition, like you're wearing down your tires. It's not like that. It's like wearing down the force of another person or a group of people. Like in war, you're wearing down the other side. These two words, I put them together and you're going to see why. The first word, debonair, it sounds so fancy. It's an adjective, and debonair describes a man. The connotation here is positive, and the context is always going to be a man. It is never used to describe women. It means confident, stylish, and charming. Debonair. It even sounds fancy. Synonyms: suave, urbane, sophisticated, cultured, gracious, courteous, right? You get that these are all like positively toned words. It's like confident and stylish at the same time. Again, describing a man. So your parents might really like a boyfriend that you brought home if he displayed debonair behavior. So in that sense, it's an adjective. It's describing the behavior, which is the noun. The other word on here, that's the other end of the spectrum, is crass. Crass. It is an adjective as well, and it means lacking sensitivity, refinement, or intelligence. So it's like the opposite end of the spectrum here. Now, crass can describe a person. You could say like, oh, that crass girl over there. It could describe language, right? Like the crass language she yelled down the hallway. You could describe a movie as being crass. Some people think that like South Park is a crass cartoon and they don't want to watch it. Or Game of Thrones. A lot of people don't like watching Game of Thrones because they feel like the subject matter is too crass. It's lacking sensitivity, refinement, or intelligence. So some good synonyms might be stupid, insensitive, mindless, ignorant. It's not just being dumb, too. I want to say that. Like, if somebody failed a vocab quiz, you wouldn't say like, oh, you're so crass. It's not like that. Crass is like it's stupid and rude and like kind of trashy in that way, like the person screaming obscenities in the middle of the mall, right? That's crass behavior. The next one, ambiguous. Ambiguous is an adjective. It is usually a negatively toned word. It has to do with language, usually, but not always. And it means opening to more than one interpretation, having a double meaning. So you would say the question is rather ambiguous or unclear or inexact, right? So the whole society is morally ambiguous, right? In that sense, ambiguous is describing the noun, which is society. So I used a piece, this is actually one of my favorite pieces of modern art. Um, it is very ambiguous. A lot of people don't know what it's actually about. It can mean so many different things. So this piece of art is very ambiguous. It's open to more than one interpretation. The next word, circuitous. It is an adjective. It means of a route or journey longer than the most direct way. Okay, so of a route or journey longer than the most direct way. Good synonym might be roundabout. Okay, the canal flowed in a circuitous route, so in a longer, more roundabout way. If you were trying to waste time instead of going home, you might take a circuitous route home. You could even say, like, somebody's logic was very circuitous, meaning that their logic kind of took the long way, or their reasoning was very circuitous. It very much like strayed from the most direct way of thinking. It isn't always this is a neutrally toned word. It isn't always negative. The next word is belied. Belied. It is a verb and it means of an appearance, fail to give a true notion or impression of something, to disguise or contradict. So good synonyms might be uh, at odds with, call into question, disprove, debunk, discredit. All right, so negate. Um, in this sentence here, his lively, alert manner belied his years. So here, belied is the verb, and the sentence is about like his manner, like how he acted, contradicted how old he was. Okay, another good example might be his eyes belied his words, or his eyes or his facial expression contradicted what he was actually saying. Okay, so belied, it's to contradict. The next word, it is a compliment. Now, you guys should all get this right. I feel like we know this word. The only thing you need to know about it that you probably don't already know is that it's a noun and a verb, okay? So, in the noun sense, it means a polite expression or praise of or admiration. So, a flattering remark, a tribute. So, you compliment someone on their, like, I don't know, their cool hair or whatever. In the verb sense, it means politely congratulate or praise someone or something. He complimented Erica on her appearance. So if you receive a compliment, right, then that's it in the noun sense. But if you complimented the couple, like you see in this picture, on their beautiful wedding, you're using it in the verb sense. So the main thing to know here that you probably didn't already know is two parts of speech: verb and a noun. Amorphous, that's the next word. Amorphous. Amorphous is an adjective, so it's going to describe something, and it means without a clearly defined shape or form. Without a clearly defined shape or form. Synonyms would be shapeless, formless, structureless, vague, ill organized, unclassifiable. Usually, amorphous is negatively toned, but not always, okay? But most often it is. A good sentence for that might be you want to avoid making amorphous statements. So you want to avoid making like formless, shapeless statements. You want to make like clear, direct statements. On this slide here, you see an amorphous blob. It's just kind of without form. It's just kind of like, blah, 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 like, just kind of all wiggly and all over the place. You could also say, if you're talking about a group of people or an organization that lacks a clear structure or focus. So you wouldn't want to go to a college that had amorphous leadership because the college wouldn't have any idea what was going on. It would have a loose structure. It wouldn't have a clear shape or direction. So it could physically be something without shape, or it could be a group or an organization that lacks structure or focus. Our next word, archaic. Archaic. It's not archaic, okay? It's archaic. And it's an adjective and it means very old or old fashioned. So in this sentence, prisons are run on archaic methods. Archaic is the adjective and it's describing the methods that are old and old fashioned. Some synonyms might be obsolete, out of date, behind the times. You can tell that this is a negatively toned word, usually. It means very, very old or old fashioned. However, you're not going to describe a human as archaic. You wouldn't say, my grandmother is so archaic. No. It's because you're trying to swap out old and old fashioned for this word. Archaic means very, very, very old. And it's not to describe a person either. You might describe their morals as archaic or their beliefs as archaic, but you would not describe the person themselves. Like, again, my grandmother is so archaic. The next word, assuage. Assuage. Okay, and it's not a sausage. It is ASSUAG. Okay, assuage. And you could tell by the fact that there's an ED here in the example that it's a verb. And it means to make an unpleasant feeling less intense. So you assuage it, you relax it. So in this sentence, her hunger was assuaged after eating a large breakfast. So here, the nouns, right? The hunger was made better by eating a large breakfast. So you could say the letter assuaged the fears of most of the group members. So the letter made the group members feel less scared. Some synonyms might be to relieve, ease, alleviate, soothe. This is a positively toned word, as you can probably tell. Another good sentence might be an opportunity occurred to assuage her desire for knowledge. So it relaxed her desire for knowledge. The next word, bombastic. That's a fun word. It's an adjective and it means high sounding but with little meaning, inflated. It's a negatively toned word for sure. Some synonyms might be pompous, verbose, high flown, ostentatious, what a good word, pretentious. It usually has to do with, like in this example here, you have a politician who is known for his bombastic rhetoric. It's rhetoric or language that sounds good, but really has little meaning. So sometimes if I'm watching like a documentary, because that's like the cool stuff that I do in my free time, I don't like when documentaries are full of bombastic points that sounds good, but after you're done watching it, you're like, what even was that? That didn't make a whole lot of sense. So bombastic, it's high sounding, sounds great, but really it has very little meaning. Next word, astute. Astute. It is an adjective and it means having or showing an ability to accurately assess something, situations or people, and turn it to one's advantage. So you would say an astute businessman made a lot of money in the stock market. Because astute is the adjective describing the noun, which is businessman, and the businessman could assess the situation and turned it to his advantage, which made him a lot of money. In this picture here, you see the detective as being an astute observer of clues, which allows him to turn that situation around and get him, in the place to solve the crime, whatever it may be. Astute usually is a positively toned word. You would want to be called astute for sure. It's not like you're sneaky. It's that you see opportunity and you take it. Again, not in like a nasty or abusive way. Just you see something and then you go for it and then you turn it around to your benefit. Our next word, austere. Austere. It is an adjective, and it means severe or strict in manner, attitude, or appearance. So in this sentence, he was an austere man with a rigidly puritanical outlook on the world. Austere is describing the man who is strict in manner, attitude, or appearance. So he probably doesn't joke too often, like wears fancy suits that are never wrinkly. Okay, so he would be an austere man. Um, Sometimes if you go into a teacher's classroom and it appears very austere, that means there would be like nothing on the walls. There would be, it would be very just like prison like. Prisons, for that matter, are very austere places. Some good synonyms might be severe, stern, strict, harsh. It's usually, not usually, I say always going to be a negatively toned word. Our next word, colloquial. That's how you say that, colloquial. It has to do with language, always. And it's language that is used in ordinary or familiar conversations. It's not formal or literary. So some synonyms might be informal, conversational, everyday. It's a neutrally toned word. It doesn't have to be negative. But during the job interview, I try to avoid colloquial language. It's not the same as crass, okay? Don't mix that up. Colloquial is how you talk to your friends, right? But it's not necessarily the language you would use when writing your college entrance essay. It's not the language you would use on a job interview. Colloquial is just ordinary, familiar conversation. Maybe if you were at home just talking with your family or something, that would be colloquial language. And it changes depending on where you are, who you're around, and even like what area of the country you're in. They have different colloquial speech. They use different words and things depending on where in the country they are from. Our next word and last word, censurable. Censurable is an adjective, and it means deserving blame or censure, not being wrong or evil or injurious. So some good synonyms might be culpable, blamable, blameworthy. It's a negatively toned word for sure. So you could say something like here in this little picture here, the boy was censurable, right? Because he broke the austere mother's, I don't know, vase of flowers. So censurable just means deserving of blame or censor. So I'm trying to think of a good example for this. Sometimes, I guess, like during a period of a lot of political unrest, a government might outlaw censurable comments from the public because they don't want to start riots and things like that. So, in that sense, they would outlaw censurable comments or censurable ideas or, songs. They might want to censor them. Okay, so that's it. Yay, that was a really long one. All right, I'll see you in class.